2023 is almost over.
We're in the end game now.
And these are my favorite metal albums of November, starting with Suffocation with Hymns from the Apocrypha. In case you were wondering, new vocalist Ricky Myers sounds fantastic, but even that aside, the dynamic songwriting on this album is some of their best to date. Perpetual Deception has more great twists and turns. I love the carcassy melodic intro and bass work on Dim Veil of Obscurity, and Seraphim Enslavement totally blew me away. Honestly, there's not a single dud on this album, and once more this year, a legacy act completely defied my expectations. It's so great to see bands that have been around for decades that could just phone something in for the hardcore fans, instead really put in the work and double down on their strengths to upstage bands a third of their age.
The fine wine only get better with age.
Speaking of which, we also have Angra with Cycles of Pain. I've been trying to keep my finger on the pulse of power metal this year, and there have been a few standouts, but this latest release from this 90s formed Brazilian band may very well be the best of the year, packing the power of Blind Guardian, Iron Maiden, and Dream Theater all in one. This record has an absolutely incredible opening with Ride Into the Storm and Dead Man on Display absolutely rivaling anything off of last year's excellent The God Machine. But then the deeper you get in, the more the band's penchant for progressive starts to take hold, adding in some South American flair on Vida Seca, and with Faithless Sanctuary sounding like it came straight off of Octavarium. Great stuff even if you don't generally enjoy power metal. Then we have Hinayana with Shatter and Fall. This Texas band blew me away with Death of the Cosmic a few years back, and they only continue to cement themselves as up-and-comers to watch with this new full length. Their sound is massive, combining the already moody and dramatic tones of Insomnium with the grandiosity of Moonsorrow, plus there are still some serious headbanging moments here and there, as with Reverse the Code. And even when things slow down, I feel like this is a really good example of how to do that in a consistently engaging way. In spite of the overall emphasis on atmosphere, it's always cleverly held together by little earworm hooks, and you're never far from some new development or change in texture to shake things up again. Yo, we still have plenty more albums to go, but as always, if you're enjoying the video, hit the like button, it really helps me out, and comment below your own favorite metal albums of November. But next up, we have Nightcrowned with Tales. I've been enjoying this band's very Dissection-esque brand of melodic black metal since their debut full-length in 2020. Featuring members of Dark Funeral, Night Rage, and Cypher System, they bring only the best elements of those bands to something that feels very fresh with each new album, and this third record very much continues that evolution. Old Tales almost feels like a black metal gateway song for deathcore fans, reminding us where those Lorna Shore tropes came from in the first place.
This again?
Then there's the increased additions of clean vocals, guest artists, and wonderfully folky overtones of tracks like She Comes at Night, and as always, those menacing earworm hooks. Then we have Insomnium, back again with Songs of the Dusk EP. As if dropping one of the best melodic death metal full lengths of 2023 wasn't already enough, they still had 22 more minutes to share from the same conceptual wellspring. More massive melancholic atmosphere and powerful riffing make for another truly engrossing experience. Always great to hear how seamlessly they weave together the acoustic and electric guitars, and even the death growls are strangely soothing. One small critique that I've always had an issue with these guys is just ditch the damn whisper vocals. They're only one element that often holds otherwise perfect songs back.
Enunciate.
Then we have Sea Mosquito with Igatur. This UK band is seriously noisy and malevolent avant-garde black metal, occasionally mixing with elements of industrial. And considering those are two of my favorite things, this may be among the best previously unknown surprises I've unearthed all year. 1 minute's Deathspell Omega, the next I'm basically bobbing my head to Skinny Puppy. And honestly, I'd love to hear a lot more of those industrial fusions with this project. But even that aside, the very serpent-like black metal slithering throughout the majority of the runtime is fantastic. I've been trying to scale back my final picks for the end of year tier list, and it only gets harder and harder. Then we have Vansind with Morquette. I just recently did a video on my favorite folk metal, and I'm always hungry for more, so enter this Danish band to fulfill my lust for clashing swords and stampeding hooves. Triumphant guitar melodies are perfectly matched with infectious bagpipes, flutes, and more, not to mention an extremely effective dual vocal approach of harsh snarls and feminine cleans akin to Alluviate. Very fun stuff that scratches a very particular itch in a style that you just don't hear enough of these days. One critique, I feel like songs could be a minute or two shorter, but overall it makes me excited to just have another folk metal band to look forward to future releases from. Then there's Sadis with The Shadow Inside. Over 16 years now since their last album, and these guys are still killing it. The absence of Steve DiGiorgio is definitely a bummer, but even as a duo, this is some of the band's best work. Great variation too, with groovier tracks like Scorched and Burnt alongside real rippers like Ride the Knife. Once more, every instrument getting a spotlight. I love the bass line on The Devil in Me and killer drumming on Pain. Definitely one of their more straightforward albums, but the songwriting and performances are on point, and this is easily the best they have sounded from a production standpoint. Check out the tier list I did of their discography too. Then we have Fuming Mouth with Last Day of Sun. Interesting mix of harsh and melodic elements with this one. You've got sludgy, crusty, D-beat-driven Entomedcore with those buzzsaw guitars, but then also tracks like The Silence Beyond Life that almost sound like Norma Jean. I also appreciate the seriously pissed off lyrics, especially on tracks like Burial Practices. I will say that tracks definitely drag on way longer than they need to, and things get a bit repetitive with the kind of copy-paste sounding riffs, but I also think that this may be the perfect transitional album for someone who either loves hardcore and wants to get into death metal, or the death metal fan looking to dip their toes into hardcore. Then there's Elitist with A Mirage of Grandeur. This is a Denmark-based death metal band, once more recommended to fans of the likes of Portal and Alterage. The vocals may be a bit more traditional, as are the additional solos, but these guitars bring that same insect-like swarming chaos, and the results are especially impressive for a debut. Tracks like Vacuous Magnificence also really showcase the unpredictable twists and turns that the songwriting can take, and in spite of this, there are some seriously infectious grooves that almost seem to possess your body throughout. Then there's Mouth Breather with Self-Test. One of the hardest young metallic hardcore crews around that hardly anyone knows about. Truly brain-melting, noisy guitars and bass alongside a dual vocal attack that is completely unhinged. There's a reason why these guys made my best of 2021 list with the previous album. Ethical Hunting is easily one of the most hype album openers of the year, and I'm also partial to Imaginary Skin, Shotgun Funeral, and Soulmate. Hardcore for the criminally insane. Then it's the return of Spirit Box with the Fear of Fear EP. The current darlings of the metalcore scene back again with this EP, and honestly, after being a bit disappointed by their full length, it's kinda nice to hear them back in this shorter format again. Cellar Door hits hard as an opener, going straight for the harsher end of their sound with plenty of neck-breaking pace changes. Then there's the more melodic and kind of Deftonesy Jaded.
And I've always been ashamed that I wanna fall into a dream with my honor.
And then there's also more of the kind of technical animals as leaders vibes of The Void. I'm a little surprised they didn't include their almost danceable hit Rotoscope from last year, but even without it, this is a very strong EP that proves that Spirit Box haven't run out of steam just yet. Then there's Panopticon with the Rime of Memory. Now, because of how the schedule worked out this month and the fact that Austin isn't a huge fan of early press access, I have not been able to hear this album yet, but the video needed to go up, and so we did it. That said, Panopticon is one of my favorite black metal projects, and he has yet to put out something I didn't enjoy, so I can't speak on its quality yet, but rest assured it'll be worth checking out, and I plan on doing a discography tier list once I have. And also honorable mention to Tetragrammicide with Typhotantric aphorisms from the Arachnophidian Quran. I gotta say, reading that title only took 2 takes. Now, I like this album, but frankly, I found the artwork and insane titles to be more interesting than the actual music, which gets incredibly dense, especially with the seemingly endless barrage of hyperspeed blast beats. I also found the vocals to be kind of annoying, which drags it down the most for me. Still worth checking out, though, as I saw a lot of people enjoying it.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
Then I really had 2 top picks this month, and the first is Valdrin with Throne of the Lunar Soul. This Ohio-based melodic black metal band has been picking up steam year after year, but I think that this new conceptual double album is their tour de force. Fusing elements of Emperor, Dissection, and Sacramentum with the more modern sensibilities of bands like Tribulation, this is 74 minutes of truly engrossing perfection. I often bemoan bands seemingly stretching their runtimes with needless repetition, but this is the perfect example of how to justify the time investment. Much like how classic movies like The Godfather keep you riveted with great performances, editing, and pacing, Throne of the Lunar Soul keeps you on your toes and never leaves you checking your watch. And then there's Zoth with Exogalactic. Another album that was hard for me to nail down genre-wise, but what was clear is that these guitars absolutely cook. It's thrash, it's death, it's heavy metal, galloping triplets, and shredding solos. In some ways I compare it to Ex Mortis, but really this is in a league of its own. Some comparisons to Vector would be warranted as well, but again with guitar leads that Bill and Ted would absolutely be stoked for.
But we're total metalheads!
Any way you slice it though, this is one of the most impressively played albums of the year. And also with a little bit of a retro feel that could go toe-to-toe with some classics as well. Y'all check out this playlist for more of my favorite metal albums of 2023 by month, or this one for some of the tier lists related to some of the bands mentioned in this list, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.